To understand why context managers are quite important, let me share with you the following example. Let's say that you have a folder, it's named dataset, and inside this folder we have a file which is dummy. And the content of this dummy is just hi, I'm dummy file. I'll take the path of this file and I will define a variable now, it's named file path, and I will add also the name of this file which is dummy.txt. And don't forget to make it as a raw string. Now, if I want to read the content of that file, I have to open this file first, then I have to read the content, then I have to close the file. Usually we close the files in order to make sure that they are free to use by other applications if they want access to this file. Otherwise, if we keep these files open, other resources or other processes cannot access to these files. So let me say file equal to open file path. Let me say file.read and I will assign this to content. And let me at the end close this file by saying file.close. If I print content, I'll find hi, I am dummy file, which means that the content has been read right correctly. And let's check now the status of the file. So if I say print file.closed, I'll get what I got here, true. Why true? Because I already closed the file here. So closed is just a variable like a flag will tell me if the file is closed or not. Now let's assume that there is an error happen before you close the file. Let's say that you define a list here which has 1, 2, and then you want to get access to the element number 10 in this list. In this case, you will get an error. Why error? Because there is no element in the location number 10 in this list, which is A. Let's see. But also there is another problem here, that if you try to print file.closed here, you will see that the status is false. Why false? Because close function is after directly the error, which means this function will not be executed and the file will not be closed. Now let's replace all of this by another code now, which will do exactly the same thing using the context manager. And let's see why it's better. So if I want to read the file using context manager, I have to say with open as file, and then I'll do exactly the same thing, content equal to file.read. Let me run. You will see here that hi, I am dummy file, and the status of the file is closed. Even though there is no close function here, but please, you have to know that context manager in this case will guarantee to you closing the file beyond the scene. And closing the file will happen not only in the right case like the following. Even though there is an error happen, the file will be closed. Let's see this example. If I take this part now of my code, put it here, and comment and run. We will see right now that within the body of this with statement, we have an error. But if I print right now the status of the file, I'll see that the file is closed, even though there is an error happens here. So we can understand from this that the context manager helped me clean up the resources and close the files, let's say, and whatever, even though there is an error happen. Now let's see in Python how we can define a context manager work exactly like the function open here. Let's see together. First of all, I'll define a class, its name file, and this class accepts 2 parameters, which are file path and the mode, which means I want to open this file for reading, writing, or for appending. And in this class, I will say that there are 3 instance attributes, which are file, file path, and mode. We see that if I want to make my class as a context manager, I have to override 2 methods, which are enter and exit. So let's override these 2 methods first. Let's take exit method, and as you see, exit will take self, exception type, exception value, and traceback. We'll talk about this later on. And let's say pass. Now, enter function will be executed at the beginning of the block of with statement, whereas exit function will be executed when the block of with statement has been totally executed or there is an error or exception raised. Okay, so what I want to do when I want to enter to this block of with statement, actually I want to open my file. So I'll say self.file equal to open self.filepath, self.mode. And I'll say return self.file. So the value that enter function return, actually it's exactly the value that the variable inside with command will have. And we will see this later on. Now, what I want to do when I want to exit from this context manager, actually I want to close this file. And let's say, let's print this statement, the file has been closed. Okay, now let's use this class in action right now. Let's say this is my file path again, and I will use with again. I'll say with file, which is my class, and this file will take 2 parameters, which are the file path and the mode, which mean why I want to open my file, as if. And look here, if here, this variable will have the value that enter function return, which is in this case a file object. Okay, When I read this file, what I want to do actually, after I open this file, I want to read its content. So let's say f.read. Let's save this inside content variable and let me print this content. Now let's run. You will see I got here file not found error simply because I just take the wrong path. So just let me correct the path and rerun. You will see here that I say, or the following statement has been printed. Hi, I am dummy file. The file has been closed. Why I got this statement printed here? Because exit function, we have this print statement. Now, out of this with statement, let's check the file status. So let's say f.closed print and run. You will see here that the status is true, which means my context manager, in this case file, closed the file after we exit from the body of this with statement. Now the next question that we have to ask, what will happen when an exception occurs in with scope? So let's see. If I come to this point here and I make a mistake, so let's say, an exception, a equal to 1, 2, and I say print p10. This will give me index error because there are no 10 elements inside the array or the list A. If I run, you will see here that I got an error. If I check the status of my file, it's closed because I'm using context manager. But the question now is how to access to the type of the error that occurs so I know how I can handle it. Let me show you. If you see here, exit function has 3 parameters, which are exception type, exception value, and traceback. Now, if I come to here and I say print exception type, exception value, and traceback. So let me see what will be the content of these values when there is a problem and when there is no problem inside my class. So I will take this with the statement from here right now. I'll run this and I will go to a new cell to show you what will happen here. And let me run now. Now in this code, there is an error. So let's see what will be printed out. We'll see that the file has been closed will be printed because this is inside exit function. And you will see that I have exception type, which will have the type of this index, exception value. And here you will see list index out of range, which means the message of the exception that happened. And you have the complete traceback object that's created after this exception happens. So we can understand from this that when an error occurs inside the context manager scope, you will get all the details about this error so you can handle it easily according to the use case that you are working with. That's all for this lecture. Now let's recap what we have learned. Mainly, in this lecture, we've talked about context manager special methods, and as we have seen, these methods are the methods that are used to define the behavior of the context manager at the beginning and at the end of code block of with statement. Now please refer to the challenges available in the lecture resources in order to practice what you have learned in this lecture. And now we reach to the end of this lecture. Thank you very much for your time, and if you are available, join me in the next lecture.